Thank you. I'm glad to have opportunity to talk here. And the theme of our conference is about dialogue of different the civilization. And especially this section is about involve some kind of peace, as Professor said. And to explore this issue, I think we need to understand civilization deeply. If we look at civilization itself, then we may find that human civilization first includes the dimension of universality. And in this sense, civilization can be broad understood as the fundamental way of human existence. In a similar sense, it can also be said that human civilization is some of the achievement of human actual reality, creation. According to Chinese culture, the universality of human civilization can be examined from two important concepts. The first is the difference between cultural and pre-cultural in Chinese 文野之别. From the perspective of logical, the problem involved in the difference between cultural and pre-cultural is how to get out of natural state and enter into civilized form. From perspective of ontology or metaphysics, can be noted that this process manifests the process from being as it is to the actual world. Here, we need to make difference between origin, situation, and actual world. Origin situation refers to the state of existence in which human knowledge and action have not yet participated. The actual world is a world constructed by humans through their own activities or external existence, which include the process of human participation, and humans themselves are also inherent in this world. In terms of the above aspects, the civilization means enter the actual world from the origin situation. The second concept related to civilization in traditional Chinese culture is the distinction between human being and animal, which in Chinese 人禽之辨. The distinction between man and animal is an important topic discussed in Chinese philosophy, especially in Confucianism. The discrimination in these aspects mainly involve the question of what is man, what is human being. And its concern is to point out the fundamental ruler and distinguish man from other beings. The distinction between cultural and pre-cultural place emphasize value creation and emphasize that humans' actual reality beyond their origin state through their own cultural creation activity, while the distinction between humans and animals mainly indicate the substantial nature of human beings. The above 2 points constitute the universal future of civilization. These mean that from perspective of universality, civilization involves the relationship between cultural and pre-cultural, as well as that of human and animal. As far as origin existence is concerned, human being transformed from the natural state to a civilized state through labor, and in this sense, labor constitutes an important prerequisite for civilization. From a political perspective, after enter a civilized society, people beginning to implement social governments and establish political systems. In terms of cultural value, with development of various aspects of practice life, people have gradually formed series of civilized concepts and normative systems. From the perspective of daily life experience, people often mention civilized way of communication. Here, culture refers to the form of communication that distinguish people from the other beings of pre-civilized states. Until modern time, behavior that are opposite to civilized are often classified the public. When we see behavior as a rude, we usually say uncivilized. In the above aspects, civilization is indeed reflect in daily behavior. Generally speaking, civilization contains both universality and particularity. The latter connect with their specific form of values background. If we only emphasize the universality, it's easy to lead to dogmatism. The emphasis on universal civilization in the modern Western value system somewhat imply tendency to understand Western civilization as a standard form, which seems to exclude other forms of civilization that are different from it. On the other hand, emphasize only the uniqueness of civilization often lead to relativism and exclusivity, values religion extremism and narrow nationalism, highlighting the uniqueness, unique, uniqueness of the certain form of civilization in different forms. Religion extreme emphasize the special significance of certain religion form required absolute loyalty to this special form while exclude others, thus lead to mutual opposition between religion and civilization. Narrow nationalism requires recognize of their uniqueness external, while externally it forces relevant members to identify their own tradition. When national identity conflicts with universal values, narrow nationalism tend to exhibit more negative side. It is not difficult to note that emphasize only the universality of civilization or simply emphasize the uniqueness of civilization will tend towards the singularity and exclusivity of civilization. The common character of both is ignore the diversity of civilization and failing to accept the concept of inclusiveness and tolerance. These singular and exclusive orientation often lead to the conflict between civilization. The clash of civilization theory produced by Huntington is based on the idea that civilization cannot be compatible with each other. In this sense, recognizing the universality of civilization and respecting its uniqueness and diversity is not only a prerequisite for mutual learning among civilizations, also provide basis for avoid conflict among civilizations. Civilized interaction involve both conceptual and practical process. Here, we may take justice as an example. The section of this also take the justice as taught. In terms of the principle of justice, there is difference between the Western concept of justice and Chinese concept of benevolence, 人道, which Confucius said. The idea of justice originates from the Western, with its main starting point being the individual rights central. In comparison, the concept of benevolence affirm the intrinsic value of human being with its essence. Confucius defined benevolence by living or loving others, which show these tendencies. Here, the two focus on different aspects. Based on the basic concept of individual rights, justice is mainly based on the principle of getting what one deserves. In fact, both Plato and Aristotle, modern Western thinkers, justice is mainly explored from this perspective, different from this direction. Starting point, the concept of the benevolence, people need to further expand the concept of justice to get what one needs instead of what one deserves. Since every individual has its intrinsic value as being human, they have reason to obtain the social resources needed for the survival and development. It is not difficult to notice the different theoretical effects formed by the interaction of different value orientation between China and the Western at the conceptual level. From the perspective of the actual effectiveness of all practice interaction, the concept of justice based on the benevolence can ultimately lead to change in distribution method. The precision of poverty alleviation in Chinese 精神互评 implement in China today provide relatively a specific example in this regard. Precision poverty alleviation is mainly based on the principle of benevolence and the concept of get what one needs, rather than solely based on the concept of justice of getting what one deserves. In the historical practice, the process of poverty alleviation is based on the inherent need to get rid of the poverty and develop themselves. The pursuit is related to the specific way to achieve the principle of get one needed. These facts indicate that the intellect of civilization is not only reflected in the mutual reference at the conceptual level, but also in the practical lower, but in the practical level. Here, we also may notice two important propositions in the book of the Doctrine of the Mean. This is 中庸. Firstly, the proposition of all things are mutual together, without harm each other. 万物并乐不害 in Chinese. These concepts involve both interacting between nature and human and the relationship among people. In terms of the relationship among people, the so-called all things are mutual together without harming each other, means that every individual group, nation, and country need a condition for survival and development, instead of only a few countries or individuals to have these rights to survival. Secondly, the proposition of two lines parallel but not contradictory. The second proposition is the all lines parallel but not contradiction. 道并行而不悖 in Chinese, which involve more value and embodiment, the principle of tolerance that requires to respect different forms of civilization and ways of social development. The modern concept of democracy, freedom, equality, and so on, which forms the fundamental of universal value principle, no doubt need to be recognized. But at the same time, Those principles often have different embodiment in different cultural traditions, and those differences should also be recognized by human community. Only by paying full attention to the unique character present in different historical and cultural traditions can common value orientation be truly realized. Thanks.